Hi, my name is Antonia, and I have prepared a presentation about the pathway of digestion and absorption of one of micronutrients in our diet, about the carbohydrates. And since we are in New Orleans, let's discuss how our bodies digest and absorbs a beignet sprinkled with powdered sugar. So, a beignet, from the carbohydrate standpoint, consists of polysaccharides that are non-digestible, such as fiber, and digestible, such as starch. The powdered sugar on the top is disaccharide, called sucrose, which consists of two monosaccharides, glucose and fructose. All carbohydrates our body further processes are broken down into monosaccharides and used for energy. 1 gram of carbohydrates yields 4 kilocalories of energy. As we take a bite of our beignet and chew it in our mouth, saliva is being produced as a response from the cranial nerves at the junction of the medulla and pons. The saliva contains, besides others, salivary amylase that start the carbohydrate digestion in the mouth, and as we swallow, relaxation of esophageal sphincters and peristaltic waves bring the bolus to the stomach, where the salivary amylase further decomposes the carbohydrate. The last stop for carbohydrate digestion is in the small intestine, where enzymes from pancreas are secreted. These enzymes are pancreatic amylase, maltase, sucrase, and lactase. Digestion of polysaccharides is longer process as they are more complex and composed of multiple rings when compared to di or monosaccharides. Starch is broken down into primarily in the mouth and stomach into oligosaccharides and maltodextroses and maltose, and it's about 50%. And the pancreatic amylase then breaks it into maltose and smaller oligosaccharides within 10 minutes when the carbohydrate enter the small intestine. Enzymes from the brush border, such as maltase, dextrinase, and glucoamylase, then digest those smaller carbs into glucose. But disaccharides are primarily digested into monosaccharides on the brush border of small intestinal lumen. So their process of absorption is shorter and especially in the small intestine. Fully digested carbs are then absorbed in the epithelial cells of small intestine. Glucose and galactose need to bind to sodium to be taken from the lumen of small intestine to epithelial cells. SGLT, which is sodium glucose transporter facilitator, facilitate this transport of glucose and galactose from the inside of the small intestine into the cells. The concentrations of monosaccharides inside the cells increases, and glad to diffuse it down the concentration gradient into the capillary of villus, and blood transport then it throughout the body. Sodium, which help with monosaccharide entering the cell, then exit the cell using the facilitated transport, which requires energy and is called sodium-potassium pump. This provides a low ion concentration of sodium inside the cell. And as the electrical charges change in the cell, absorption of glucose doesn't absorb only glucose. And when glucose enters the extracellular fluid, water is being osmotically drawn from the lumen to intestine. And this is called the solvent drag, and it's a passive transport using diffusion, and moves also electrolytes and ions. And the process of entering the bloodstream of for sucrose, which we can see on the bottom right, is much easier than the process of glucose or galactose entering the capillary and bloodstream. And it's used, and the fructose uses the facilitated diffusion and GLUT5 and GLUT2 transporters. So thank you so much, and I hope we learned something more about beignet and their effect on our bodies and how we process and use energy from them.